Hello and welcome to the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Johnstone, and I have an incredible offer for you today. What we've done is we've taken the 10 most profitable methods to grow your mortgage business that we have learned from interviewing the producers on this podcast, many of whom are doing over $100 million in volume per year. And we've packaged them together into a condensed 45-minute training where you get to learn the 10 most successful and profitable activities that you should be running in your mortgage business. Then we show you how to automate those processes with people and systems so that they run and continue to produce loan applications and new partners that want to send you business pre-booked into your calendar without you having to do any cold calls or chasing or really any work. It's a blueprint for you to be able to produce more in your business while actually working less. And you can go get that training today for free at chriswebinar.com. That's chriswebinar.com. So make sure you head over there today, grab that training for free, and make sure that you watch it, because the sooner you get started on implementing these strategies, the sooner you can see results and continue to grow your mortgage business. Thank you again for being here with us for this episode, and enjoy another one on the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. Welcome back to the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast. I'm joined by my friend, Geoff Zimpfer. Geoff, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Man, so you also run one of the most successful podcasts in the mortgage space, Mortgage Marketing Radio. Our friends and listeners can find that at mortgagemarketingradio.com. But you get to interview top producers, much like myself, people doing $100 million in volume, and you're always pulling out their strategies. You're relentless. You're like, it's unbelievable to watch. So yeah. I know that you have got just a huge archive of value to share with our listeners today, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it.
I appreciate you saying that, because I've heard that a couple of times before, and this isn't like I'm the last person to give myself a pat on the back, but I do think we also need to be able to identify kind of what our superpowers are, right? We all have them in various forms. And so I'm taking that on, Chris, the interview compliment, because a couple of people have said that, like the questions that I ask, like I don't let people go or get off the hook. There's no surface answer of like, oh, this is what I do. I'm like, no. What do you do? Like deep, right? Break it down to step by step. So, yeah, man, I'm just really curious. Somebody asked me, one time, I think it was something about like, why do you think you're a good interviewer? And I said, because I'm just curious as hell. Like I'm really, really curious. What's the story behind the story,
Right. Interesting. Well, it makes for fantastic content and learning and education, which is what I am so looking forward to discussing with you today. So we all know we're going through some interesting times in the mortgage industry. It might be a little bit blown up by the news, but rates are going up. Whether it's back to normal levels or not, we will see. Actually, I had Barry Habib on the podcast not so long ago, and he had some fantastic insights into when he thinks rates are going to come back down and when inflation is going to get under control. But I'm interested in your opinion on what are you seeing from mortgage professionals right now that are still jacked, that are still amped, that are still growing in today's marketplace? And what are they doing right now to generate results in their mortgage business?
That's a great question. I think first and foremost is they are for controlling their mindset, number one. Yeah, I'm going to start at the top, right? Because to your point, there's a lot of noise. The media is creating a narrative. And we need to take control of that narrative, because the narrative isn't exactly accurate, or it's more emotionally driven and fear-based than accurate, right? Data-based.
No, the news.
Yeah, right. No, shocking, but true. So I think, look, I like to use this concept of, if I can borrow the metaphor from probably our mutual friend, Rene Rodriguez, and he talks about a lighthouse, right?
Yes.
And what's the purpose of a lighthouse is to guide vessels safely in and out of harbors, right? Or on an earlier podcast I did today, to keep ships from hitting the rocks.
Yeah.
Right. And that's true. And so, the metaphors are, who are you being? How are you showing up today? Are you being that lighthouse, or are you just perpetuating some of the narrative that the media is putting out there? And I know you and I both have seen that in some of these Facebook groups, which, some of these LOs just get in and, carry on that narrative, and we need to, I think, have a higher standard. So what I'm saying is this, is that uncertainty is killing deals,
Yes.
right? And the message I'm preaching to everyone is, or the question I'm asking is, are you a student of the market, or is this a new skill? And if it's a new skill, it's time to learn that skill, because quite honestly, no one's had to use their skills in the last 2 years. You know, the skill, I like to say this, the skill we've been forced to use up until this shift has been facilitating.
Yep.
Right? Facilitating the flow, the demand of business. And that's all we had to pretty much do for the last 2 years, is catch that tsunami with a net or whatever. And now the tide's gone back out, and some people are feeling naked, you know?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I think that mindset, like, it affects everything, because it affects your marketing. It affects the investment in your business. Like, I see so many people cutting right now on the things that they need in order to actually facilitate the business. Like, I'm not just talking about marketing and advertising. I'm talking about processing support, underwriting support. Like, if you were to just go out there and give the message of positivity to the 200 people that you've turned down in the last 200 in the last 2 years, and say, hey, you know what? You don't have to go $50,000 over list anymore. You can actually buy a house at a seasonally adjusted market price. And yes, the rate's going to be higher, but not for that much longer. Rates can come down, and this gets you into the house. This is a message of positivity. It's a message of, finally, you can get into home ownership right now. And the people that I see approaching social media content and database marketing and referral partner marketing, those are the people that are winning right now. I mean, imagine going to your referral partner and getting together for coffee, and everybody just sitting across a cup of coffee going, oh man, it's bad. Yeah, it's bad.
Right,
oh.
right.
Nobody's doing business at that table.
Right.
But same people, same circumstances, different coffee shop, different conversation. They're the ones that are closing deals.
Yeah. And so that goes into like your question, right? Mindset, attitude, number one. Number two is not knowledge and skills. And then number three is actions. Like, how do you show up? So I think we're all saying the same thing here. And how you show up is, what do you say? You know, both online and offline. What do you say to your prospects, clients, referral partner? What do you post online? How are you dealing, right? Or addressing the narrative, as I said. I had a question earlier this morning. I saw somebody post, which was this: when you're talking to these potential buyers and they're hemming and hawing and they like have some uncertainty and everything, and there's a whole dialogue we could have around that. But the one question I thought was really cool, which was, which market would you rather be in? The one of the last 2 years where you had to overbid 50 or $100,000. Would you rather be in that market, or would you rather be in the current market?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question to pose to your potential buyers.
That's a great question.
Yeah, because then you can give them see what they say. Because anybody who understands what's going on, they're probably not going to say, I'd rather be in the other market from a year ago. Yeah. Because they know how insane it was. So it's like, well, yeah, I guess now that you say it, I'd rather be in this market. Great. Then let's talk about a strategy for this market, and let's talk about the realities, right, of this market. And then the whole thing, right, the plan and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, you know, Renee does a really good job. You know, we had him on the podcast, and he talked about the frame and how important, you know, his 3-step amplify process is, which I totally believe in. But setting the frame with data from third-party sources, like, let's go back and historically look at housing prices, and let's historically look at interest rates. Your home is going to appreciate in value. Like, you might be on a small part of a slight up or down dip, but overall, this house is going to appreciate for you, and you can navigate the interest rate because I'm your advisor. I'm here along this path and journey with you. So, Geoff, you absolutely nailed it there. So, mindset, I absolutely love. What about tactical? What are you seeing the producers that are still growing in today's marketplace? What activities are they focusing on in order to go to the market, generate leads, generate buyers?
Yeah, so we've got to take that in the different buckets, right? So, I mean, one thing that I'm seeing them do tactically is they're going back to, you alluded to this a few moments ago, going back to the people that didn't win in the last 6, 12, 18 months, whatever. Like, they were in the market, they tried to win, but they couldn't win, right? Got outbid, outpriced, whatever. So you're going back to those people and just kind of checking in and having a conversation. Hey, just wanted to check in. Obviously, the market's a little bananas right now. And, you know, I'm just here to answer any questions you might have, because interestingly enough, right, you as a buyer now have the upper hand.
Yep.
You have momentum. And so they're trying to drive conversations around that kind of dialogue or whatever, right? So that you've easily got people that you're pre-approved that didn't execute on that, hopefully using a database for that. And then the flip side of the coin is the referral partners. I'm spending a lot of time helping my loan officers partner with realtors to help them navigate these choppy waters.
Yes.
And what to say and how to show up, and seller buy down. Of course, we're all in love with that, but there aren't enough using that yet or in the right way, right?
Yep.
I think that's an incredible advantage and a tool today that, as you as an LO, that goes back to my thing about, are you a student of the market and skills? Like, that's a skill many LOs haven't yet whipped out of their bag because they haven't been in the business long enough.
Yep, absolutely. So Geoff, for those listeners that may not know what a seller buy down strategy is, can you unpack that in 30 seconds?
In layman's terms, sure. So what you're seeing right now is a lot of people reducing the price to make that property more attractive, right? For price, reduce 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever it is. And that's been kind of the go-to for many, many years. Unfortunately, the impact to payment for that really is quite marginal. I'm looking at an example I have here on my screen, which is if you take a $675,000 purchase price and you drop the price 25 grand, let's assume the rate's 6.25. The difference in payment on that is $139 reduction in payment.
Right.
If you take that same purchase price and do a seller paid buy down, which is instead of taking that money the seller would use to lose profit on the house, 25 grand, they're going to take, instead of 25 grand, a lesser amount typically to buy down the interest rate for the buyer as a seller credit towards the buyer, right? And so that means now that buyer, instead of 6.25, can get something significantly lower. In this scenario, I know it's not accurate, but let's just say it goes from 6.25 to 5.75. Well, the difference to payment on that is $300 a month instead of $140. But here's the bigger kicker here. And this is how you as a loan officer can blow a realtor's mind. To get that same payment savings, that seller would need to reduce the cost of their home $57,000.
Mm-hmm.
So you tell me, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, realtor, what do you think is a better thing to promote? A price reduction or a seller buy down credit?
Yep.
Is that helpful?
Incredibly helpful. Yes, absolutely. You nailed it.
All right.
You got your license.
I just think it's such a missed opportunity. Like, we have the power now as mortgage originators. Everybody's like, oh, realtors and this and that. Everybody likes to say whatever about realtors, but we have so much power now because it's about payment, not price. And
that's right.
It's the interest rate that drives everything. And so you can show up and add tremendous value by getting yourself educated on seller buy downs. And each company has their various versions of that, 2-1s, et cetera, and all those things. But that'd be number one advice to you would be to become well-versed on the seller buy down for your company and what your options are around that. Dig into the underwriting guidelines, know it in and out, and then start educating your realtors, both one-on-one. And I've worked with real loan officers where they do a class that's called How to Overcome Price Reductions and Cancellations. Like, boom, who doesn't want to know about that,
Yep. No, absolutely.
And then you just basically show them, talk them through the scenarios, and here's the thing, or do a Zoom or whatever,
That's amazing. Okay, cool. So we've got go out to the past turn downs.
Yep.
Seller buy down strategy.
Okay. You want more?
Yeah. Do it. Right. One more. Come on.
Here's another one that people are loving with the realtors. And this goes back to, most loan officers pitch, quite honestly, hey, I love you guys and gals, but most of your pitches are lame to realtors of like I talked to, you and I were talking before record, and I was talking to this group of loan officers, and they were making these outbound calls to realtors every week. And they were kind of pitching, hey, we'd like to tell you about our new lending platform that helps you capture market share. And they said, at the end of that, we've got nothing, because our lending platform that helps you capture market share is the lowest rates in town.
Really?
Yeah, it's exactly. Really? That's your platform? Okay. And they're like, yeah, it just trails off from there because they have nothing significant to add. My solution to that is, right, teach the realtors how to fish. Help them grow their business. Ask them, hey, what's your biggest struggle or frustration in the current market? You're going to hear the same stuff we're talking about, right? Buyer affordability, et cetera, et cetera. There are solutions to that. One you just heard. A realtor always wants to know how to grow their business. So one of the things we're having fun with is a loan officer does a Loom screen recording.
Okay.
and they grab a realtor. Let's say it's Chris at Remax. They grab a realtor, and they're like, "Hey, Chris, what's up? This is Geoff at ABC Lending. Look at I've got a little extra time on my hands, so I'm actually focused on helping some realtors with their online presence. And I took a few minutes to look at your Google business profile, and I wanted to share some tips with you. Hopefully it'll make a difference. First of all, good job. You got extra reviews. You got this and this. Here's a couple suggestions what you might want to use to improve. Hey, if you want to talk more about this, or you want my Google business checklist on how to optimize this, let's set up a chat, and maybe I can help you. We'll go from there." And so they're literally doing that, and they're taking like 5 or 10 minutes to do that. And the realtor's like, "Holy cow, I didn't know that my website link was broken. Holy cow, yeah, I'd like more reviews," if whatever, you know the deal. And then they're getting these conversations because here's the difference. You can get referrals without asking for them.
Right.
You simply got to deliver more value and create reciprocation, right? Robert Cialdini, influence, all that stuff. You've got to add value, tremendous value, so that people feel compelled to want to give back to you.
Yes. And overwhelming amounts of
Yeah.
reciprocal value, which
Yep.
which is so powerful. Now, okay, so that's incredibly valuable, Geoff. Thank you for sharing that. Now, in your book, Disrupt or Die, you're talking about my words, not yours, but like a paradigm shift in
Yeah.
about how, social media has changed everything, communication has changed everything, and you've really got to relook at the strategies that you've been doing for the last 5 years. So can you talk a little bit more about the concepts in the book and just what you feel is like the core message that you convey there?
The core message, if you really wanted me to sum it up for you, is it's not the strongest that survive. It's the most adaptable to change. And so the premise of the book is, if you open up the first, as a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I'll turn and grab it.
Please do.
Let me just go back to the chapters, because that's my memory isn't what it used to be. But if you look, the first half of the book is all about the 5 trends that are driving the shift, which is the rise of the digital culture, consumer control, mobile, social media, and then of course the real estate disruptors. So that's all happening simultaneously, and all that means is it's change. That's what we're faced with, and it's the pace of change. And so the book, or the whole what was his name, theory of evolution guy, I can't remember his name right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, so it was about the survival of the fittest, right?
Okay. Yep.
And it's not the survival of the fittest. If you go into the details on that, it was the ones who survive were the most adaptive to change, and who can actually change and adapt the quickest.
Yes.
And just like the market we're in right now. The story I love about that, I'll totally rip this off from somebody else, but the bison cow story versus the storm. When a storm comes, you ever heard that story?
No.
Yeah. So picture the great wide open plains of Colorado, right? Where the bison live and roam freely. And also picture there's cows that live there too, just open plains, right?
Okay.
And when a storm comes, what the cows do when they see a storm coming is, first of all, they wait forever to move because they're cows, right? And then secondly, what they do is they try and run from the storm. And by waiting and running away, they delay the inevitable, and they get stuck in the worst part of the storm ever, because the storm is coming up on them and passing over them, right? And they're going to, they're running with it. They're through the thick of it. The bison, interestingly, their mindset, their approach is to run into the storm. So when they see a storm coming, rather than run away or pause, they run right to it and through it, and they have the shortest amount of exposure to that storm because of how they approach that. So I think that's the metaphor for change and disruption. Is it's not what happens, it's what you do. Are you going to be a cow or a bison?
Man, I love that. That is absolutely fantastic. Total aside right now, Connection Incorporated is hiring. We are growing our team right now. So if you know anybody that loves good, solid digital marketing or phone work, just send them our way.
Love it. You're hiring some bison, I assume.
Yes, we are, and we're a big troop of them.
Well, and also, I don't want to just skirt over. You did ask a very specific question. So part 1 is, adjusting to the shift. And I go through the history and all that kind of jazz. But then part 2 is, how do you become a modern real estate or mortgage professional? And it starts with personal branding, content marketing, online reviews. Like the first impression is online reviews, Google, right? And you've got to control that, winning the customer early, et cetera, et cetera. And I just think, okay, so this is a perfect comparison. I think, unfortunately, look, I love this industry. I love people, but I think still too many haven't pivoted. Too many are still moving slowly. they haven't picked up the pace, and the storm is going to hit them if it isn't already.
Yeah. And so talking about digital media, because I get these questions all the time of like, hey, I want to get into video marketing, but I don't know what to say. I hate social media. I'm not on Facebook, but like I finally hit that tipping point where it's like, okay, I have to try something new if my business is going to survive, because what I was doing before isn't working anymore. So I see a lot of loan officers trying to get their digital footprint set up and start to create content and start to try and become the mayor of their local market, which is phenomenal to see. And I want to be as supportive and give as much quality information to those people on that journey. So who have you interviewed recently that's doing a really good job of that? And why do you think they're doing a good job?
I'm gonna have like, who did I interview? I'm gonna pull up my website and go to recent interviews to see who I've got. I interviewed a guy from Australia who on TikTok generated 5,000 leads in a year.
Wow.
The story gets better, with a 10% conversion.
No. Really?
Yes. He has closed 75 million from TikTok.
Wow.
And if you listen to the podcast, it's episode 258, Mortgage Marketing Radio, which is 2 episodes ago. The way he got so busy, you'll love this, Chris. He got so busy, he had to outsource the leads to other mortgage brokers in Australia.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Now, I always like to be like, I'm a chief truth teller, right? So I always like to put people hear that and they either get enamored and be like, I got to get on TikTok, or, that guy must have some advantages. And I will say, yeah, he does have some advantages. He's a former teacher. I think he already was in education, and I forget if he had like a DJ business or something, but anyway, he had some things going for him. He understood how to, quote, teach content online.
Right.
But he got started from zero, right? Had never been on TikTok before, and he just worked at it and busted his tail, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one example right there. There's others I think of in the past. I've got my friend Sean Cahan, the mortgage geek in San Diego, who's built this incredible persona and brand. And again, what he's doing, I'm not saying everybody should be doing, but it comes back to people what have they done that's succeeding and doing well. I think when you find your voice and you comfortable with your voice and discover, quote, your brand DNA, which is hopefully we all kind of mirror and kind of trail, draft, that's racing metaphor, drafting, right? When you follow somebody behind somebody, they pull you forward. We all kind of watch other people to get ideas, but we need to ultimately take that content and make it our own.
Yes.
So we're all kind of creatively borrowing and swiping and deploying, and that's okay with that. And I would say, like any journey I've gone through this, you have probably as well. You're never going to get comfortable unless you start putting yourself out there.
That's right.
And not to sound cliche, but get used to being uncomfortable and get used to, you've got to let go of the judgment of yourself.
Yep.
For the video, for the content you put out there.
100%. And that is the journey, because, I've been through it. You've been through it. I still go through it all of the time. I look at, I'm not growing more hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, exactly. And so but you really do, because you're your own worst critic. Like, the things that you think about your content are the worst that you're going to hear, unless you go on Twitter. Maybe stay away from Twitter for the first little bit. But quite seriously, you're your own worst critic. But think about that person who who's either in your database or they're the kid of the person who's in your database, and they're getting fear pumped by the media. And it's potentially holding them back from making one of the wisest financial decisions that they can make in their lives. You can post, 5 years of equity into that person's life just by being the trusted advisor that puts out a piece of content that can get shared with that person.
I want to also say this. There's something, imposter syndrome, which is, when we all know what that is. It's like, you feel uncomfortable because, like, oh, they're not going to listen to me, or gosh, I don't have a lot of value to offer or say. And that's a process that I've gone through. And I've talked to other people that are well-known names, and they would tell me that they still feel imposter syndrome.
Oh,
like on a weekly basis. And yet right. So they continue to move forward. So my point is, don't feel like what you have to say wouldn't be useful to somebody, because you'll be surprised that it is. And what they love is your angle on it and your personality and your style, even though the same thing's being said by five other people, but it's five different ways. So embrace that. Your voice, you have a voice. People want to hear your voice.
oh, 100%. And my friend Carl White, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, he's got a beautiful saying that will stick with me forever. It's like, fear is peeing your pants. Courage is doing what you need to do with wet pants on. And and very much content is kind of like that. Like, eventually you've just got to put it out there, because they're like, so Geoff, my wife held a fundraiser at our home. I should say we held a fundraiser at our home, but let's be real, she did all the work. And I can tell you, so we had close to 50 kids at our house, and seeing it in our kids and the kids that we are involved with at the school and everything, you see it a little bit, but the kids that are growing up today, and even the generation that is buying homes right now, they were raised internet first. They don't know what dial-up was. They have always had high-speed connection on a smartphone with access to information like that.
Yeah.
And when you can see a crew of almost 50 kids, and they love the bouncy castle and they love the pool and they love all that, but they get all that energy out, and then the first thing they're looking for is community screen time. And this blew my mind, because what they did was they found the kid in the group that was the kid that could get the parent that would give them a screen. And so they like all got together and they polled and surveyed, be like, okay, who can get us a screen? And then they sent those out to the parents, got the screen, brought it back, and then they all collaborated on this. We got this big U-shaped couch, and there was like 18 kids all around one screen watching one thing that they had collaboratively decided that they were going to watch. And the point there is that if you're not able to deliver your value proposition through a screen, you're going to end up in a position where you're not speaking to the majority of the customers anymore.
Mm.
And that's a dangerous place to be.
That's interesting.
So that digital media component of your business and being able to touch that first-time home buyer is absolutely paramount.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very like thought-provoking, catch me off guard, positioning of the future, like the next gen home buyers. And it's interesting to see, right? We'll see how that continues to unfold, because obviously the millennials, right? The oldest millennials are now turning 40. It's a little mix of Gen Z type behavior peppered in. But I'm looking at some facts about Gen Z right here on my screen, actually, which supports just what you talked about right here. As a matter of fact, according to this, 85% prefer chat or automated customer service interactions over phone calls.
100%.
So chat and stuff. Here's a funny one, though. 43% of Gen Z remember the last website they visited, but not their partner's birthday. When they get married, they're going to have to change that.
Truth. I'll back that one up 100%. So interesting stuff. But you mentioned 5-star ratings and reviews.
Yes.
Like there comes a time, it may already be here, but if you look at the core fundamentals of where you get your business from, and I'll ask our listeners right now, pull yourself right now. You're in the car, you're working out. I hope that you're using this as positive time. And your ability to get those online ratings and reviews, your past customers are going to check your online reviews to make sure you're still relevant and make sure you're still in the business. When a realtor refers a customer to you, what's that person going to do with your name? They're going to Google you. What's the first thing that Google is putting front and center in front of those people when they Google your name? Your reviews and your two most competitive people in the online space on that front page. Think about Facebook. People Facebook you. Well, what happens with the algorithm? As soon as somebody looks at a mortgage page, they feed it into the algorithm. So every single company that's spending money on Facebook and Instagram ads can target those people with advertisements for the next 90 days. Like, we've gotten to a point in our culture where you don't have a vacuum to sell in anymore. It's all messy and it's all overlayered because of what these tech companies are doing. You have to protect that. You have to fight for it. And I believe that it's a digital fight.
I
So
agree, man. I love it. You're ahead of the curve here, and people need to stay ahead of the curve with that. I love the way you kind of gave that. You forget. People don't pay attention to what's actually happening. Like the Facebook example you just pointed out. I go search something on Google, whatever. Well, there are big companies with big budgets that are grabbing that information, as you said, and retargeting, showing me ads that are relevant to that search I just did. We all know it, and of course, it happens even in a more eerie way when you're just get your mobile phone in the background and all of a sudden Facebook sends you those ads for drill bits or whatever.
it's, oh man, that happens.
Well, and that gets back to like one of the chapters in the book, which is like get to the customer early, right?
Yes.
And so the various ways that you can do that for sure, but that goes also plays into this whole personal brand thing and why we need to leverage platforms to build our personal brand, to have content, because that's how people are engaging long before they get to the call. Google, the social media, these other places, they're engaging. They are, like these hummingbirds that go to these different destinations and gathering information to build a case on you or to
Yeah.
learn something. So that's why these platforms make sense. If you've ever questioned, well, why should I put in the time and effort? Think about my guy with TikTok, right? I give you another example of a dude on YouTube who I know, Kyle Seagraves, same thing, right? And there's tons and tons of examples on YouTube of agents and lenders who have put in the sweat equity, because YouTube, of course, is very education driven, right? People go there to learn something. And if you play your cards right and you do a good job, et cetera, whatever, play the long game, that's going to be a place that lives on for you for the long term, in terms of Google search and all the favors or all the benefits you can get from that versus maybe the other short term types of platforms that are out there.
100%. And then we'll take this one step further. And Geoff, I so enjoy this conversation with you, just because of your broad depth of knowledge. But I think that there are two sides to the equation, because people get in that online space and they get that original referral, or they find you online, they're reading the ratings and reviews, they're going through, and then all of a sudden they get overwhelmed. It's like, this person is telling me rate is everything. This person is telling me that rate doesn't matter. What about the real estate agent? Like, there's all of a sudden they're bombarded. Yeah. And then what they need is an advisor that they trust.
Right.
And that relationship will never go away from personal communication. Yes, you might do it through a live chat. Yes, you might do it through a Facebook message. You might have to do it through Zoom, just like this, or meeting in person. But there comes a point in that zero moment of truth in the buying journey where they have to rely on a professional to guide them through the mortgage process. And they need somebody that they know is a person that has their best interest at heart in order to make that decision. And I believe one of the environments that we have right now, like actionable in today's marketplace, we're not talking about the future 5 years, right now, that's live events. Mm-hmm. Potentially putting together live events. And Geoff, I know you're doing some really cool stuff with live events. Would you be willing to share what you're doing with our audience and talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I appreciate that. So live events, and when we're talking live events, I'm talking both in person and or virtual over Zoom, and specifically for real estate agents, meaning I'm talking about a loan officer building an educational platform. Look, because it's been the game for a long time, right? Of like, how do I get agent referrals? How do I get agent conversations? How do I rise above the noise and get noticed? Well, first of all, stop the same as lame pitch that most other LOs have, right? Which is try our company, great rates, great service. We've heard that for ad nauseum, right? We know that's just tuned out. So what works, as we've talked about earlier, have a more compelling value proposition, right? Lead with education. So what I help loan officers do is solve that problem, which is how to attract, convert, and get conversations that lead to referrals with real estate agents. And there's a bit of a numbers game to it. You got to be, you can cast a wide net or you can go narrow, a couple different options on that. But the point is I'm still bearish, right? What's the right? No, what's, bullish, bearish stock market? What is it? Bullish. I'm bullish.
Bulls go up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still very bullish on the lender realtor partnership and relationship. And I
100%.
think that is still one that has relevance moving forward, even with all the digital talk we just had. Because let's face it, still in the coming, year, there's roughly going to be 5 million homes sold in the United States. That's not new builds, that's all resale. And 89% of people who buy those 5 million homes will use a real estate agent. And I've got data from different reports and stuff that even when loan buyers show up with a pre-approval from somewhere else, about half of the time they go with the lender recommended by their realtor.
Yep.
Okay. So it's just more at bats and you getting in front of that. So what we do with the educational classes is just accelerate that process of finding, meeting, and converting real estate agents. Because imagine this, you get 10, 20 agents in a room. That's your first meeting with 10 or 20 agents. You teach them how to optimize their Google business profile. How are you going to do that? I give you all the stuff, the PowerPoints, the speaker notes, we have a whole marketing platform that does it all for you, right? You just need to watch my video 2 or 3 times because I train you how to do the class. And then you follow our process and system and boom, you show up, you got butts and seats, and then you have conversations and meetings, and we leverage social to promote it. And I mean, I've just the other day, one of my members posted how she got 30 agent conversations and 9 referrals, like all within 3 days of her doing her class.
That's amazing.
It's law of large numbers.
Yep, absolutely. And reciprocal value. Show
Yes.
up,
Right.
do your best, give value. The referrals will come. It doesn't have to be about rates, products, service. Service, but rates and products. Give value, and that relationship will reciprocate for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And if anybody wants to learn more about it, can I tell them where to go?
Please do.
All right. So they can go to mortgagemarketing.pro, mortgagemarketing.pro. Little video I put up there. Maybe it's for you, maybe not. But hey, love to have you check it out and join the family.
That is fantastic. Well, Geoff, again, thank you for being so generous with your time and having the conversation with us today. If people want to find out more about you, your socials, the podcast, Disrupt or Die, the book, where do they go to get more information?
I'd say the best place to go is Mortgage Marketing Institute. You can Google that. You can just type in my name. The website will come up. Name is Geoff, Geoff Zimpfer. But that's probably the easiest way to do it is Mortgage Marketing Institute, because everything's there, the podcast, the links to the agent classes, and et cetera.
Okay, that is fantastic. And again, thank you for being on the show to all of our listeners. Don't forget, head on over to iTunes, hit us up with a 5-star rating and review for the podcast. Make sure you subscribe while you're there. If you're seeing this on social, make sure to like, comment, and share, because this information makes us all better in the mortgage industry. And the more cred that we get, the more incredible guests like Geoff we get to have on the show. So please support us in that. And Geoff, again, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, it's Chris. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed our guest today on the podcast. This is a reminder that we have just finished taking the greatest lessons from all of our guests and packaging them together into a brief online video presentation that's going to teach you the 10 most profitable ways to grow your mortgage business. And then we show you how to automate those processes in your business with people and systems so that you get the results without you having to do the work every day. This is quite literally a blueprint so that you walk into your mortgage business every day with pre-booked appointments with borrowers that want to meet with you and referral partners that want to send you business, so that you are spending your time inside your mortgage business on the highest dollar per hour activities, and you truly become the executive of your business, a true business owner, rather than just somebody who's going to a job every day and making a wage on the way through. This is an absolutely incredibly powerful training for you, and I cannot wait for you to experience it. So head on over to chriswebinar.com. That's chriswebinar.com to get that free training today. Now, if you could do me another favor, if you enjoyed this episode, please head on over to iTunes, search the Loan Officer Wealth Podcast, and give us a 5-star rating and review, really on any podcast platform that you're watching this on. That just 30 seconds of your time goes to help another loan officer in the industry discover this information and really help put their life and their business on track for more success. We are all in this together, and there is more than enough for all of us in the industry. So I would love if you left us that 5-star rating and review. Don't forget to stay tuned for our next episode, and I'll see you then.